afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley, and I'm just so excited, as always, to be before you and start to really have this conversation as we have been for the past, not just a couple of weeks, but for the past couple of months, if not a few months, about now how to advance in adversity. And this week, we're all talking about hashtag the talk, hashtag the talk, how to talk with your children in regards to the police and racism. And I'm so excited that I have some great, amazing guests. I have my co-host, Danny, that's going to come on in a second. And then we have the lovely Diana Andre. Look, I had to practice that a few times. I want to make sure I don't mess up her name because she is lending her expertise, her skill, and her time to us to help us to know how to help our kids. You know, they've been sheltered in place, dealing with COVID-19, dealing with the pandemic. Who knows if they may have lost a loved one. And then, the graduation had to get postponed and, we had to now come to see them or they had to do it via Zoom. And then all of a sudden, now, which have been going on for a minute, not all of a sudden, but the fact that now the protests, the racism, white privilege, you name it, and they're out there making it happen, protesting, making a difference, raising their voices. But who's to say that they may be suffering in silence with all of this going on? So that's why we are having this conversation. And we're going to have this conversation right now. So thank you for tuning in. As always, please let me know how you're doing. Put a 1 in the comment section. If you're having a great day, put a 2 in the comment section. If you had a so-so day, put a 3 in the comment section if you had a horrible day. Because what I want you to do is now decide. Because see, in life, it's no such thing as winning and losing, but rather it's winning and learning. So if you didn't win, what did you learn? And what do you plan to do differently to turn that 2 into a 1 or to turn that 3 at least to a 2? So talk back to us. And also, if you have any questions or comments, put it in the comment section as well. We want to invite you in this conversation so that now we can collectively come up with solutions that will best serve our children and ourselves. So I would love to bring on the lovely Danny Robinson, licensed social worker.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Danny, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I took off today. So, glory to God.
I'm talking, that's part about that, what is it? Release? No, what was it?
Relax, relate, release.
Relax, relate, release. Self-care. That's a part of that all the time. Yes, definitely need it.
I'm glowing because I had the day off. Listen, I had the day off, but that didn't necessarily have the day off. So it's all good though. At least I had some time just to kind of reflect and relax and, do things that I enjoy. And so how about you? How was your day today?
Oh, good. Same. I had some family business to take care of. So it was like kind of off early, but then I was able to get like a couple of other things done. I was like, oh, I'm just feeling so more at peace now. And a few things off the plate, little checklist. So yeah, feeling good.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to partner up with you and to have this conversation now with our next guest, our next guest, who is the expert in the field of working with children. And I'm so glad that people are joining us right now. Hey, Aneem, I may have mispronounced your name, girl. I'm sorry. I need to practice off camera to make sure I get these names right. But thank you for tuning in and thank you for joining. Everybody who's sharing it out, thank you for sharing because sharing is caring and you never know. You may just save a life in the process. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. All right, so without further ado, I do want to bring on Diana. Before I do, Danny, do you have any news while I pull up the information?
News today. So I mean, there's always something going on, in the world, definitely. But I would like to say that I did see a friend of mine post, and I don't think that was even today. I think that might have been yesterday too. Was just talking about some of the reforms that they're planning on doing, and I believe one of them was, if I might be quoting it incorrectly, but just in discussion about changing the way that we do. I think privatized prisons, I think was the update. And I can't remember, it's my friend Ty. So I have to double check the article, but I did catch that. I did see that internationally, I see how all these monuments are coming down, not only here in the US, but I saw something about Belgium. They're also taking theirs down. A couple of other countries are taking down their monuments, their statues that we haven't always known, but we have learned that most of these figures that have kind of been looked up to and memorialized through statues have, you know, really caused a lot of havoc, chaos, trauma, terrorism to Black folk. To so actually see this impact internationally, to see these things come down is very encouraging. So I'm glad that we're seeing these changes.
You know something? So I always like to bring some humor to this as well, right? Like it always works when we actually can have a pattern disrupt or interrupt and like how the flow is when we're so angry, and then it's like humor just brings us back in.
Right.
It depends on who you talk to, though. Yeah, I don't know. Some people may not take it so humorously, but so I saw the one in Bristol, England, where I think it was Colston, he's the slave trader, and they took him down. It looked like they blindfolded him.
Yeah,
they faced him and they rolled him down. They picked him up.
Yep.
Like, I think somebody was supposed to say a few words, but then I saw somebody's hand is, we don't have time for that. Pushed them in. Everybody, just celebrating. I was celebrating. I was like, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I saw someone talk about Christopher Columbus. I think that someone had taken him and put him in the river. I seen someone decapitate him. Like I saw the head off. And I was like, wow. They made
I'm telling you, we need to impact this all the way across the board, even to our Native American brothers and sisters, because they still have issues with the term of Redskins, for our football team. So it's time to spread that love as well over for them and make sure they're equality, because they're massively being affected by COVID. I mean, in alarming numbers. It's very scary. So yeah.
Yo, did you see him? I feel like coming out like, yo, did you see the NASCAR?
Yes, they're taking her out, moving. They're no longer banning the Confederate flag. I said, come on, NASCAR.
Wow.
NASCAR. Yes, that's huge.
It's a lot of changes. And so we just really want to encourage you all. The fact that instead of whatever you're looking to see immediately and right now, such as police reform, we're talking about defunding the police, and I see a lot of mixed reviews on that. But the fact that we are seeing changes, albeit small, big, or in between, we're seeing changes. So make sure, again, as we always talk about, the shift in perspective. Look at what you want to see happen. Right. Don't keep meditating on what you don't want to see happen or what isn't happening for you. That's not happening quick enough. We need to look at what is happening and celebrate that, because we will see more of that. More of that. Or just making sure that you stay focused on what is happening and you celebrate that. I had a whole list. I had copied and pasted a whole list of all these different changes that have happened. So y'all can always check back on my Facebook page so that you can see what in the world has happened within a matter of time, because we did rally together. We are joining together. We are making a difference. And that is what it's all about. You are making a difference. You're showing up. 80%, maybe it's 90% now. So Marsha, you have to talk back to me. Thank you for joining us. It used to be 80%. I don't know if we went up to 90%, but it's about showing up. So that's winning the battle right there. That's mostly winning the battle by just you showing up. And then you sharing. So even if you feel like you're at a place where you're not able to share your voice, you can't speak your voice, you may be shy, you may be introverted. Okay, that's fine. You showing up and you just pressing the share button, or you're showing up and then you're talking to someone else that you feel comfortable in talking with about how you feel about the situation and what you want to see happen. That is change. That is progress. You are doing something. So celebrate yourself. Celebrating what you are doing. It's not by comparison whatsoever. It's just a matter of that you are doing something and making a difference. Even if you're showing up, hey, be it via Zoom, at the protest, you're cheering them on. The Gen Zers, they got so much energy. The millennials, they got so much energy. Us Gen Xers, I'm cheering on the sideline. But yes, we are all making a difference. And that's all that matters. Okay, so thank you so much for everybody joining in. Thank you, Danny. I see you, Danny, on our Facebook Live. Hey, Gregory, thank you for tuning in. Hey, Yolanda, thank you for tuning in as well. Good evening to you. So, April and Marlo, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Any other business or any other news you want to share before we bring on our lovely guest of the evening?
No, I think we can get on into it.
All right. Okay, so everybody, I'm so grateful and thankful for Diana Años Andre. So let's talk about it. Diana is a licensed mental health therapist working with children and adults. She has been serving her community for over 8 years in a variety of settings to include private practice, school and community groups, residential psychiatric facilities, and in home. She has also worked with children and families in dependency and foster care systems. Diana enjoys working with individuals and families to navigate the challenges of life. So that's why she is here with us today. She has experienced she has experience with anxiety, depression, anger management, trauma, school stress, life adjustments, parenting skills, family communication, substance use and abuse, and career transitions. She also addresses ADHD and ASD related concerns. While Diana has a passion for helping people, her heart lies in working with children. She has experience with children ages 3 and up, providing them with emotional support, helping them work through their trauma, and providing psychoeducation to teach children how to self regulate and use positive communication skills to express their needs. So, everyone, I just would love to welcome you, Diana Años Andre. All right, so Diana, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for joining us, Diana. We really
Hi,
appreciate you. Hi.
thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have a great crowd. We have a great audience. We're sharing it out. Shane, hey, thank you for tuning in. Everyone, thank you. We are now going to go into the conversation of how do we talk with our children, our teens, our tweens, our babies about racism and the police. So, Diana, yeah, what do you think about that? I mean, you work with the children, so how has it been for you in regards to working with the kids, especially around this time in this climate with racism and the police?
Around this time, well, actually, even before this time, I have three kids of my own, three boys, and I always found that the best route into talking about any of these things is to be completely honest and to be open and transparent. um, and of course always being age appropriate. Depending on their age is what is how you want to introduce certain things to them. But always being truthful in what is happening is the key. It helps to eliminate a lot of false narratives, and it also helps the child understand what is actually going on in the world. In terms of the children that I'm working with, that I base that off of how the parents are actually dealing with the situation. So to be completely honest, my clients that are under the age of 9, some of them are not really aware of what is happening because their parents have not either shared it with them, or they're not on Facebook, they don't have social media, and maybe their parents don't have the news on, or they're not really speaking about what is happening in front of them. So that age group, I find they don't readily know what's happening. During my sessions, I do check in with my clients, and I ask them, hey, how are you guys dealing with what's happening in the world, what's happening right now? So based off of their response, it lets me know where they are and how much they do know. um, a lot of my teens are the ones that I actually enjoy my sessions with, because they are talking, like, they're using big languages, political languages. They're talking about overt and covert racism. They're on it, they're on social media. They've formulated their own thoughts based off of what they've seen. Um, I've actually have gotten from the conversations with the teens more support. No, actually, all of my teams are in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, in terms of, this is not right. It doesn't make sense. Oh, we should be past this. I mean, I get so much anger and from the teens about how unfair it is that, this we have to go through this. And it's always, no, all lives doesn't matter. It's Black Lives Matter, because Black lives are the ones right now who are being persecuted. And I'm like, all right, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's, how do you really feel? But they are, so my teens are very vocal, because they're more aware of what is happening.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And it made me think about how uh, you mentioned something that jumped out for me in regards to the narrative, the false narrative, and perhaps maybe parents not knowing what to say depending on the age of their child. That would, I don't know, that may concern the parent on how their child may take it. They may not, the parent may not know how to answer, follow up questions that the child may have, or they may think that, well, the child is not able to process what's going on, and nevertheless not knowing what to say, and that sometimes they may give a false narrative, or try to make them feel better, or try to give hope in the sense of creating a different spin to what's going on. Um, do you find that that isn't helpful, as far as with, even if at the best effort of the parent, that maybe that's just not helpful, that they need to be truthful? And does that matter in the age?
Yeah, I find it's not helpful at all when parents lie to their kids, especially about this topic, because with our brown and Black kids, as you know, they can experience racism at any given age. My own son had his first experience when he was 4 years old, and he, not to say he was traumatized by it, but he just couldn't understand, because a little boy told him that he was too dark to play on the slide with him. And that hurt his little heart, and I had to go and regulate at the preschool. But that was way back when. But they experience racism at any given age. So it's more hurtful to the child if you're not explaining the truth of what is happening in the world. And when I say in truth, I'm talking about not your opinion. We all have, all of us are, Black and brown people, we have our opinions as far as why this is the way it is, and why we feel the way we feel. We all have our opinions. So what's important is to stick to the facts, things that you can show and prove and explain to your child. And that way they're not just spewing your own, they're just not retelling what you're wanting them to retell, if that makes sense. Helping them to know the facts, so that actually they can stand up for themselves, and they can speak their truth, and they know where they stand in life, and also what their rights are. So if they don't know the truth, someone else will tell them their truth. And so it's important as parents that we advocate and we educate, not telling them the story, by not educating our kids with what our history is. It ultimately hurts our children. So I'm Haitian, I'm Haitian American, and so I do homeschool my kids. So the first thing I did when I started homeschooling my son is I spent I spent the summer teaching him about our Haitian history. And so I feel that's very important, because then he can know who he is and where he stands. And along with the Haitian history, he got some of the Black history in school, and I filled in the gaps so that he knows, so that he can know. It's really important.
Great point. Great point. Great point. And just to say, and I love Haitian history because y'all are some liberators. Okay, love Haitian history. Yes, girl, I'm right there with you. But and I think that's definitely a great deal, right? Because I think part of it is you mentioned identity, having the
Mhm.
identity, because we're definitely told something else in our history books. In the classroom, they're definitely taught something else about history, and not the full history and the greatness that we come from. So like you're saying, I think that is because then you learn where you come from, your heritage, how proud you can be of where you came from, and the generations and generations before you, and the things that they've triumphed through and have helped achieve. So that's a wonderful thing. So I have a real quick question for you. Because I've seen like in comments from other parents that maybe have not kind of addressed the big pink elephant in the room and talking about it. Because I think sometimes parents might grapple with the fear of trying to figure out, like you were saying, what your child has been experiencing or what they have gone through, or if they've had any experiences. I guess it's a two-part question. Is one, how would you, if you're not even sure if your child has experienced any racism, or if you're not sure of their experience, how would you definitely open that door to having to explore that? If we have some parents that might be a little skittish around having that open and honest conversation, kind of like how to open that door if you haven't done it yet in the past.
I would definitely recommend that the parent gets, seek some assistance, therapy, guidance, maybe their church pastors or whomever, to help them navigate through their feelings and to help them kind of figure out how can they address it with their child. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to mess it up, right? Because it's such an important conversation. And not that I didn't mess it up, and I know I probably did along the way, but what I had to do is I educated myself. I can't educate my son if I don't know. So definitely educating yourself, getting what's the word I'm looking for? Getting that support, even just to navigate through your own feelings will help you with your child. Because what happens is, if you're not ready, if this is such a traumatic event that's happening for adults, and we're talking about like generations of people who already had to go through Rodney King and, depending on how old they are, lynchings and mobs and all that. So there's a lot of trauma that's happening. So definitely working through your own trauma so that you don't cast that on your child, because they have their own set of traumas that they have to go through. And so our job as parents and as healers is to help them work through that trauma. So I would definitely recommend the parent get some type of support first. And of course, if it's a two-parent home, having that conversation together to decide, okay, what are we deciding here? What are we going to teach them? What are we going to explain to them? I had my neighbors, it's a biracial couple, and they have, biracial children. And they decided that their first act would be to take their kids out to the protest. And that was something that they spoke among themselves. And it was a family experience that they decided that they needed to have. And so having that communication is important. And I can't stress this enough, just being honest and not being afraid to say, what, I don't know, I'm not sure, let's look it up together, let's see what this book says, let's look at this movie, let's do it together, let's learn together. Because to be honest with you, this is my first time going through a riot and whatever. This is all new to me. Let's watch the news together. So being honest, educating yourself, and not being afraid to just speak your truth, and just telling them, I don't know, or this is my experience. And I find that when you open up to kids, kids will open up to you. They become comfortable enough to open up to you. And so they will tell you about that time that Susie skipped them in line and called them, whatever name. And so they have that experience that they can share, and they can now connect the dots as to, oh, that's why this didn't make me feel so good, and that's why I experienced that. And so it will lead that conversation to, how can I deal with this next time that it comes up? What can I do? And you go from there.
Thank you for that. That's great. That's great. I'm taking notes. That was great.
And I thank you for that. Um, it was so refreshing to hear, Diana, about saying that you don't know. Like just being honest and open. And the fact that that leads the conversation as well. That breeds more trust and honesty and openness. That can also help the kids to also be just as honest when there's times that we just don't have an answer. And we're learning this together. And that I can see how that can also help to make the child, the kid, the teen, to feel more, I don't know, more hopeful. Like, wow, instead of parents, when you think that, oh, I need to have an answer all the time, I need to lead the way, I have to be strong, and all of that. Sometimes just being honest, being open, just being real, you're setting the tone and paving the way and setting that example for them to do the same, your children. So I thought that was a great point, Diana. Everything that you just said was awesome. You all talk back to us. What do you think? Please put in the comment section. And thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. Antoine is joining. Hey, Antoine, we have him on Friday. So thank you for tuning in, Antoine. Hey, Joe, I see you popping up over there in Charlotte, North Carolina, North Kakalaki. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Sharia from ATL. Thank you for tuning in. All is well. I hope all is well with you. So Kahala, that's Danny's connection. Hey, Kahala, she said, yep, they know all about ethnocentrism, ethnic dominance. They are our tomorrow, and it's only right that we empower them.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that Marcia had said earlier, while I was talking about how, we have the Gen Zers, we have the millennials, we have the Gen Xers. She was like, look, I'm a baby boomer. So, so baby boomers in the house, we're shouting you out as well. Thank you for tuning in. But I wanted to ask Diana, is there a difference in how kids process based on their ages? So you said that you work with as young as 3 years old. So if that's the case, how do you work with or help the babies to understand, like to process this, if at all?
It's not really age, it's about maturity. Because a 4 or 5 year old could be very toddlerish, and also too like a 9 year old, but then you might have a very precocious 8 year old who can, read to you the Constitution and teach you a little something. So I find that it's based off of maturity, and I base that off of our conversations. And mostly, well, I will say I first get permission from parents. I never overstep my boundaries because I don't know where the parents lie in terms of what they want their kids to know. So that is very important, because even though I may feel that every child should be taught and should be given this information, the parent may not be ready for that conversation. So it's always important that I get the parents' buy-in first and permission before I start just, saying anything. So, but in terms of if we're teaching kids about racism and differences, if you're starting off with a 3 year old, it's mostly surrounded around play therapy techniques, having different dolls or different things that are different, teaching them that differences are okay. And you may prefer one thing over the other, but that doesn't mean that you're better than the other. But just, going through that play therapy, different things, coloring and books, videos. Daniel Tiger is an episode that I typically use to help kids 3, 4, 3, 4, and 5 year olds. They do have a lot of social skills episodes, and there's a lot of different things that you can, I keep saying things, but there's a lot of different issues that they might have. Sesame Street, you use the resources that you have so that you can help the kid understand, help the child understand at those tender ages, and then just follow it up with a conversation. Something very simple as saying, okay, well, when my son was younger, he used to say, our skin is a different color. My skin is different than his. And so you use their language that they're using. And if they're using a language that isn't quite right, you just change it. You just tell them, hey, we're going to use whatever instead of whatever. So that age is about educating and, just teaching them about differences and teaching them not to be afraid of differences. As you well know, like a three year old, they will hug anyone. And a 4 year old and a 5 year old, they go to preschool together. All that hate is manifested from home. So I find that at times, if your therapist is Black or brown, then the child is not, the home is not as overt racist as most, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Well,
some
thank
of it is oh, sorry.
Well, I was
Go
just
ahead.
saying, so I want to say thank you for that. I wanted to say I remember seeing, and I don't know if you've seen this, Diana, or anyone who may have been on my post. I love it. I think Danny may know what I'm about to talk about. It's this little baby, I don't know how she looks. I don't know how she was on. It looks like maybe her father's shoulders, and she had her little protest sign. Did y'all see that?
What did it say?
Whatever her language was. So it was in baby language. So it had all these, squigglies, and it was in different colors. So I said, well, you all caption this. What did she say? I think she said some colorful words in that. But that I'm not going to repeat here because as Danny knows, you all know, it's like I try my best to just keep it at a second hand cussing level. So that said, I don't want to say what I thought that she said, but she said something. But what I loved about it was that, wow, she looked like every bit of, I don't know, let's say two, two and a half. And she had her little sign up, her little protest sign up with pride. And it had all these little squigglies. And what I loved about the parent, that they allowed it, like it wasn't a matter of saying, oh, well, all she's going to do is do squiggly lines and it's not going to matter. No, she wanted to take to task and take to her little sign. And she did her thing. And she said what she had to say. She said what she said. And she put that little sign up. And like I said, because they took away her nap time, this whole protest, this adult stuff. She was like, "Look, adults, get it together. Don't mess it up with my nap time." But anyway, not to belabor that. I just love the fact that everyone is raising their voice, down to the babies. They're raising their voice. They're speaking out. We're all together on the same level or playing field. That's what we want to get to. Is to have everything on an equal level playing field. And the fact that, like you said, Diana, it's not based on age, it's just based on maturity, and that they can interpret and also convey, whether through their little baby language sign to them actually taking to the streets and saying something about racism and with the police. So thank you everybody for
Can I add also to,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to add there also to there are kids with autism or maybe some who have communication issues. There are social stories that parents can either create or locate online to help the child understand what's actually happening in terms of the protests or the murder of George Floyd or anything. There are social stories that can help that child that's struggling with communication to still understand. So I feel there is no excuse as to why your child isn't aware of what's going on, because honestly, if they're Black or brown, they're going to experience that racism, and the best thing that you can do as their parent is to get them ready, right? Because I always love to say, I mean, and it's painful for me to say, but I always look at my kids and I say, you know what, there is, I can, it doesn't matter how much I love you, but my love at the end will not save you, right? Because I can love you, but when you're out there, that's not going to prevent any type of racism or anything that you're going to experience. But what will protect you is the fact that I've been advocating for you, I educated you, and so now you know and you can protect yourself. I equipped you so that you can protect yourself.
No, that's a good point. That's definitely well said. Um, Denise, I had to, I guess I'm just, because you're giving really, really good information about how to, educate, how to have the conversation, how to talk to, our kids that's being faced with this kind of every day, even unbeknownst to us sometimes. But my question is also, I want to talk, about our Caucasian and our other folks that maybe they haven't been having a conversation about race, or it hasn't been necessarily a dinner topic or talking about, others. So I think that sometimes, well, in the past, we've heard, that all people are equal, all people are equal, all people are equal. And I was listening to a researcher that was saying that they did a study with like just a group of white parents and with their children. And then they asked the children after the study, they just asked them one question. They says, do your parents like white people? I mean, sorry, like black people. And they said a large majority said, I don't know. Then another large percentage said, or a medium percentage, maybe like 14% says no. So, there's like kind of that, I guess, that pushing of a narrative of saying something, but then also, I guess it's that what you kind of mentioned a moment ago, that learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's combating, I guess I look at it, maybe it's combating the two, because I think we've mentioned before in talks, it's just like, there's that, some of what you were talking about, the learned behavior at home. And, there's that social influence that we see too. Like we saw a couple of years back, if you remember the doll test, when they were asking, black kids about, which was a pretty doll, which was
Right.
the ugly doll.
I saw that.
Yeah. So how, I guess, when we're having these conversations, whether it's, the white family that is having the conversation, or you're just saying all people are equal, or, dealing with our kids that, maybe we're educating at home, but, there's still the social influence. How do we battle that, I guess, that possible learned behavior or social underlying behavior, in your thoughts at all about that, how we could combat that, or just, have those conversations to influence more instead of just speaking one thing, but maybe living another, and, also battling that psychological or that visual presentation that we're kind of coming through.
I just meet my clients where they're at. Um, Meaning I don't try to shove my truth down their throats. And I ask all of my clients, how are you feeling about what's happening? And then this gives me the opening and the opportunity to educate, because they will tell me what they know and I will provide them with information, and I will correct any misinformation. See that if they've opened up that conversation, I didn't just come in and say, hey, we're going to learn about Black history today because you need it. Even though I know they may need it, that's not how I address it. And also too, I may have to spin it a different way. One set of sibling group, I had to talk about being bullied and being the bully, and how, because he experienced bullying, and he was able to understand, the Black Lives Matter movement through the analogy of a bully. And because he was asking me all kinds of questions. And as a matter of fact, his sister was like, well, all lives matter. And he was like, well, no. Well, and he was able to kind of break it down because he understood it from his own experience. I read a post where it was a very long post, but one thing that stood out to me was that the person stated that she could not tell people how she felt about the oppression that's happening because she's never been oppressed. So how can she speak on that? It would be careless for her to speak on something that she's never experienced. So as an educator and as a therapist, to educate others, I would have to reach them at the level where they're at. Give them an analogy that works for them, because they're kids and their minds are moldable. So you give them something that works for them so they can understand, oh, I see. Because if I were to say, well, no, well, because of the Black skin, they won't understand that because that's not their life. They will understand bullying, they will understand abuse, they will understand sibling route, they'll understand what is currently in their life today. So if you have a client or a child who is not Black or brown, not the only way, but I find the best way to tell them is to tell them, don't tell them about, you don't start off with, well, if you were Black, da 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 da. You give them an example of what they can comprehend. You cannot comprehend oppression if you've never been oppressed. It just isn't. It just doesn't work that way.
All right. Well, Diana, thank you so much. And just with the wealth of information that you're giving, I see people are just sharing this out, and that's exactly what we wanted to happen, so that now they can help others on knowing what to do and how to help their children out as well as themselves during this time. And we're about to actually wrap up. Wanted to make sure that you all got your questions in for us or for Diana. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments that you want to share, because I'm reading them, I'm seeing them. Robin, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you and your time here. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. And as always, again, and having this conversation on what to do to help with our children, on how to process, how to have this hashtag the talk, everybody, hashtag the talk, because this surely isn't the talk that I remember when I was the baby's age. You know, it was a different conversation, and it is understandable. This is where we are at this time. But you make sure that, again, you look at what is happening, what is working. Do what works for you. Just like Diana said, I wanted to try to capture everything that she was saying, but you make sure that you catch the replay. If you didn't get everything, you just go ahead and you look at it over and over and over and over again. We're going to make sure that you connect with Diana before we actually end our time together. But one question that I did have for you, Diana, and everybody, again, thank you for your time as always. We really appreciate you, because we wouldn't have this forum if you were not here. Diana, I wanted to ask you, you can just, flow with this. Because of the fact that you are a mother, you said you have three sons.
Mhm.
How has this, now I know that you are a therapist. I just wonder what this is like for you as a mommy to three kings. I wonder, like, how, being a therapist and being a mom with three sons. If I may ask you, I should have asked you this beforehand. Like,
Yeah,
it just came to mind.
no, it's a very emotional. It's very emotional. It's trying to balance my mommy instincts of wanting to protect, but then also being a therapist and wanting to educate. It's about trying to keep my it's try we've seen the meme about, check on your professional friends at this time. That's me all day. And when because I'm a very avid poster. I will post all day, I will share all day, and I'm dropping jewels all day because you're going to listen. Because what I do know is I have a lot of Caucasian friends on my Facebook page who have loved on my kids and tell me how much they love them and how cute they are and how well behaved they are, and come on, drop them over at my house. My church is predominantly white, and I love going to that church. So you know what? I am part of your family, so you're going to hear me today. So I am posting all day, every day, and I'm sharing. And you know what? It's telling, and you see who these people are, and it's okay with me. I rather know who you are, because what I'm not going to do is allow you to love me because I'm that type of Black person, but you can't love the person that looks like me because I fit. I've made you so comfortable that you are able to offer me a seat at your table, but you won't offer someone else that same seat. No. If my neighbor who is also Black can't get that same seat, I don't want it. And I rather just know now that it's not available for any of us. So it's hard because it's like I'm advocating for my son's future. And at the same time, I have to remember, I'm like, hold on now, don't get too far, because at the same time, I still want people to hear me and I want them to understand and I don't want them to feel attacked. So it's been an emotional roller coaster. And honestly, uh, back in 2016, it was the same thing. My trigger was Philando Castile, and seeing that Facebook live and seeing my husband and my brother, who actually looked identical to him. He worked in a school, he's a teacher, he had locks, he has that wide set nose. And it's like you see, and then there was a baby in the car. So it's like all of that was my trigger to, this is crazy. This is out of control. So that made me become more of an advocate, and it actually pushed me to be open and honest with my sons, my oldest is 9. I have a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. And the 9-year-old is the one that I'm educating the most, because here's the thing: when they see him, they do not see a 9-year-old. And that is simply because he is tall, and he just doesn't look 9. And on top of that, he's high functioning autistic. So when they see him, they don't see that. But when he opens his mouth, you can tell, and his mannerism, you can tell. So it's me educating him and letting him know, hey, look, this is your reality. And it's not scaring him, it's teaching him, keeping him aware. He watched with me the Netflix series When They See Us. And it was hard for me. Like, I watched the first episode, and I kid you not, it took me almost 2 weeks to get through that episode because I just couldn't get through it. But then when I got to the end of that episode, I was like, no, this is impossible, because the one thing that was the one takeaway for me from that episode was that the parents did not advocate for their kids, and they didn't know how to advocate for their kids, with the exception of Yusuf's mom. They didn't allow it, but because of the lack, because they didn't educate and they didn't advocate, and because they didn't know and they were afraid, their child was unfortunately put in that situation. So for me, my sister, she's an attorney with Myrtle's Law. And the one thing that I told my son after we watched the whole thing, I and we did a lot of pausing and replaying so that he can ask questions. I of, well, I don't know. Or, well, this is what happened. And maybe we Googled a couple of things. But I made sure that he was able to understand what was happening, and he was able to process, and he was able to watch the movie as well. And the one thing that I told him at the end of it was like, listen, you always need to be respectful, because I raised him to be respectful. There's no amount of mental health issues that you're going to have where you're not going to respect your authority. There's no yelling and screaming, all that. But at the same time, you still need to be respectful to the cops. And I gave him the spiel. But at the same time, what I said to him was, when they ask you a question, or if they make promises to you, you need to know to ask for your attorney. Don't ask for me. Do not ask for your mom, because you know what? I can't help you in this situation. Do not ask for me. Ask to speak to your attorney, and you need to know your attorney by name. And he was like, well, that's Tati Lulu. I was like, no, no, she's not. Her name is Luby Myrtle, and you need your attorney, and your attorney will call your mom. And that was that. So I had to, for me, that was me educating my son. And every so often, I'll ask him, because when you ask, what we do know about the law, when you ask for your parents, you get nothing. But when you ask for your attorney, they have to stop, and they have to get you that attorney. So teaching him that, for me, was teaching him how to protect himself. And it's needed. So this whole, everything that's happening, he's very much well aware. When Ahmad got murdered, we did the walk for him, and we explained it. I have 3 other nephews, and so I have 3 kids. So there's 6 boys. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with, is 6 boys. And it's just so important that we tell them, and we advocate. And I just keep saying advocate, because that's just so important, advocating and educating, just so that you can protect. And so when Ahmad, we did the walk for Ahmad, we explained that to him, we explained Philando, we just explained the situation. But we never ever breed hate. We never speak about hate. My son's best friend is white, and he loves him. And every time they see each other, they hug each other. And I would never take that from him. I've never said to him, hey, those white people hate you. No, I don't do that. I just speak facts. And he can see it based off of the person. He just sees, and he's already able to identify if there is some type of disparity or some type of racial injustice that he is witnessing, because of the education, and he's able to call it out. and he's able to advocate for himself if he feels as though he's not being treated the way he needs to be. So to answer that question, it's just been really difficult, very emotional, but I can't allow for the opportunities to pass by because I allow him to grieve with me and to see me grieve, but at the same time, he understands why I'm grieving. And, it's just, I don't know. So I think emotional is the answer.
Yes, yes. You know what, Diana, thank you. I just really want to respond really quick. First, thank you so much for sharing that with us and just being so open and just willing to share all this about you and about this journey and this process. And I think that's really going to bring a lot of at least comfort to a lot of people listening to this, because, there are so many of us that are experiencing the same things, whether it's with our children, with our nieces, nephews, cousins, understanding this dichotomy that it puts us in, and our constant, which other groups aren't familiar with, but the constant always role switching, right? Always having to flip these hats, and I'm mom here, and I'm therapist here, educator here, protector here. So I mean, just hearing this, I was just flooded with so many emotions, because I can really relate to what you're talking about, and I think so many of us are kind of in that dichotomy. And one of the first sessions we had was really acknowledging it's okay to not be okay. It is all right, because so many of us are not okay. There's so much going on, and like you said, I mean, right now a lot of us are weeding a lot of folks out right now, because they are showing their true colors. They're showing exactly who they are, and like you said, they might have been at your table, you've been at their table, and they have these feelings, and they've accepted this image, and they're like, oh, you're okay, but not the rest. So there is so much going on. The emotion is so heavy. So again, thank you just for being so honest and being so open and willing to share. I think that was an excellent note that you also mentioned. I mean, everything you just said was excellent. I encourage everybody to rewatch this, okay? Because I mean, she was dropping so many gems, girl. I need to be dropping gems on the daily, okay? Because I was like, write this down. But one thing that you mentioned, it was we've kind of talked about it a little bit, in like creating that toolbox. I did see that somebody had posted, it was by the Huffington Post, and a young man kind of talked about the rules his mom made him follow when leaving the house. And I think that one is one that I haven't heard of. And even if you, like you said, fortunately you guys have a family member, but I mean, that is something we need to bring out to the community, to our community lawyers, whether they work for legal aid or anything else, signing up to help protect our Black men, our Black boys, our Black girls, and be able to have their information. And should they get in trouble, should they have a need, that they know exactly who to contact, that they can be held accountable. No, call my lawyer. That's
Yes.
up, that has to be at least the top two. Have the lawyer and have their information, their phone number, so they can be contacted. So thank you just for being so vulnerable and just sharing your story, because I really think that's really going to, I mean, that meant so much to me, you just sharing. So I think that that'll definitely bring value to everyone else that's trying to manage all these emotions, all these hats, all these roles that are kind of meshing together. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being here. It's always great. I just feel, sometimes you feel like I don't know, you're helpless, but being able to share or to I don't know, help makes you not feel as helpless. And so like Dr. Sarah said, even if you're sharing, if you're not even able to, if you can't formulate the words, or you're just so angry that you just can't, just sharing information, because there's a lot of things that people, they just don't know, like Tulsa and Rosewood. They just don't know these information. They're not privy to that. They don't know about yes, these are things that no one talks about, and they're all coming up from the woodworks, like there's articles that people are sharing that are like 5 years old, and everyone thinks it's right now, and you're like, when did this happen? Like, oh, okay. And it's all relevant, because while we're doing this now, why don't you go ahead and take a look into this? Look at what happened here. And I think that's awesome that we're circulating these articles and we're circulating this information, because we need to know. And a lot of us, Black and brown people, we just don't know this information. We don't know it, and we need to know it.
And it looks like because of this conversation, they're going to know right now because of the fact that we are circulating this.
Yes, they are.
Diana, you can go and you can just drop us. You like, look, you are going to listen, okay? Diana is not playing that. Y'all going to listen. Y'all going to listen to the replay. Everybody who's jumping on right now. Steve, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you and your time. See, Niblin, forgive me, the words, how to pronounce names, just like I had to do with Diana's name. You have to talk to me, and so I can practice it a few times so I can make sure I say it right. But thank you for tuning in as well. Everyone, thank you for this conversation. Diana, thank you. Thank you for dropping the jewels. Thank you for just sharing your time and your expertise. And just like Danny said, your vulnerability. I think that like that touched me, because just being a fellow therapist and colleague is like, and this goes for all of you, where, okay, you're a parent, you may wear all these different hats and roles, but at the end of the day, you are a parent for those who are, and you are human. And it's not a matter of like, okay, I gotta be, politically correct or professional and all that with your own children. It's just about you being you. They just want your presence. They just need you, and who you are. So please, it's time for us to just be who we are, be vulnerable, be real, be human, and let us all come together, locking arms, so that now we can help all of us and one another in advancing in adversity and continually to have this talk. Hashtag the talk, everyone. So Diana, thank you so much. Danny, thank you for joining and helping us always. So much appreciative to you and to you, Diana. And to all of you, thank you for tuning in. Very much appreciative for you showing up and sharing this and having this collective conversation. So y'all make sure that y'all tune back on Friday. We're going to continue to have hashtag the talk. But before we go, of course, we want to ask Diana, how can everybody reach her? We do have a conversation on 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Antoine. So Antoine, I know you're getting ready. You're taking the notes so that you're going to tie it in and bring it home. No pressure, brother, no pressure. We just can't wait to listen from, from the brother's perspective in regards to hashtag talk. How do we help our children and being able to process regarding the police and racism? So Diana, please, if you can share with us, how do everyone reach you? So if they want to ask more questions or hire you, or, just really want to continue with the conversation, because they are going to listen because you have something to say. They want those jewels. So please, how can they reach you?
Well, right now I'm a licensed therapist in Florida and New Jersey. And my private practice is expressionstherapycenter.com. And that's actually for every platform, Instagram, what is the other one? Twitter, Facebook, it's the Expressions Therapy Center. And so that's for all the platform. And of course, my email address is danyas.andre@expressionstherapycenter.com.
Okay, I'm putting that in the comment section. All right, so y'all make sure y'all follow her, follow Diana Andre. Y'all make sure y'all check her out. She's, she's licensed in Florida and Jersey. I was looking at Danny because she,
Jersey in the house, girl. Jersey in the house.
And y'all make sure y'all checked out the replay. You make sure that you continue to share this, because again, sharing is caring, and you ever know, you may just help someone in the process. You may save their lives. You may help another parent through this, and you can just help yourself by now putting into play, how can you now make sure that you help others in advancing in adversity? So everyone, this is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley. As always, it's a pleasure. Everyone, thank you. Everyone, have a good night. And look, y'all go to my page, look up at that baby. I think that's a great way to end this. With the baby language sign, y'all go ahead and look at that, see what she said. Y'all talk back to me about what you think she said. Again, I think all the squiggly lines, I think she cussed them out. So, and good deal for her. So that said, y'all have a great night. Much love to y'all, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diana, Danny, everyone.